All right, so we're here yet again on May 24th, 2018 with the best case scenario for the Democratic Party. I previously did a video that said the best Democrats can do for 2018, and now we're starting to see a little bit more of a trend towards the Republican Party, and especially with Donald Trump's approval rating on the rise and the Democratic generic ballot numbers going down, we're going to see their best case scenario for 2018 as of today. So, first of all, in the other video, I gave the Democrats 54 Senate seats to the Republicans 46. That's probably not going to happen in the future or in this election. We're probably not going to see an overwhelming supermajority anytime in the near future, probably not even in my lifetime, considering how polarizing, how dividing politics has been across the country. If you compare the number of competitive House districts in elections like 1992, 1996, compared to 2012 or 2016, the numbers are drastically different. So we're starting off with the Senate, and then we'll move into the governor's races and talk about implications for both. For the Democrats, first of all, let's make sure we are on safe and toss-up only. They would easily carry the West Coast. We're not going to go to Nevada just yet. That includes Washington, California, Hawaii. In their best-case scenario, they would hold on to all the seats they have now, but we're going to talk about a couple before I start filling them in. So, Maine was considered a toss-up at one point. Really don't see it with a state senator coming from the Republican side. But Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, even the special election, are pretty much out of reach for Republicans, regardless of how the map shifts. I mean, even if Republicans are favored to win the generic ballot, these states probably aren't going to be targeted by the GOP just based off how safe they are, how popular the incumbents are compared to the other incumbent. And especially in these states, since they are recently turned GOP states, they're probably not going to vote that way. The Rust Belt was much like Indiana in 2008, but we're going to see how it turns out in 2020. Nebraska is never going to go to the Democrats, even in their best-case scenario. Wyoming as well. Utah with Mitt Romney, Republicans are easily going to carry that state. When it goes over to Mississippi, easily goes to the Republican Party. And along with that special election, considering that there is already an incumbent who is pretty popular now. Before, they weren't as known. They weren't as ahead in the GOP primary, but now they are. And they're probably going to win in this election regardless of any scandals, regardless of how the map turns out. So 47 Republicans to 41 Democrats. So Democrats would carry Montana. I think they're going to carry Montana regardless, considering there's no prominent GOP frontrunner and there isn't one that is really known across the state. In Ohio, there, again, is no good GOP opponent. Sure, they could do better than the other people running in the GOP primary, but they're probably not going to out Sherrod Brown. And then we go over to West Virginia. Patrick Morrisey, the West Virginia Attorney General. Yes, he's a good candidate. Is he going to win? Probably not. With Don Blankenship and all, yes, they did avoid having to give up the seat for the GOP, but they're probably still not going to carry it just based off Joe Manchin's popularity amongst both Democrats and Republicans. Indiana goes to Joe Donnelly. Mike Braun, a definite possibility of him winning here, but he's probably not going to be Joe Donnelly in the best case scenario for the Democrats. Florida, Bill Nelson probably going to carry that against Rick Scott. Again, Rick Scott narrowly edged by both of his elections in Republican wave years. Not so good for someone who's running in a year against Republicans. Over in New Mexico, I don't know why I didn't fill that one in sooner. That one's easily going to the Democrats, regardless of how the map shifts. Arizona would need to go to the Democrats. Right now, there is no. Martha McSally was taken away from the presumptive party nominee on 270 to win for obvious reasons. It's getting a lot more competitive, and we're going to see how that turns out in the next couple of weeks when the primaries occur. But Arizona would go to the Democrats along with Nevada. I see Nevada going to the Democrats. Probably Dean Heller's unpopularity is not so good for the GOP right now, especially in a time like this. Jacky Rosen's probably going to carry this race. And over in Missouri, in the Democrats' best case scenario, they would carry Missouri. Josh Hawley, again, the Missouri Attorney General. Not so popular right now. I mean, the GOP doesn't have any good candidates besides Austin Peterson and this guy. And, both of them are going to end up either being one portrayed as jokes or be too closely tied to a scandal that's going to bring down someone who's possibly in a higher office. So 50 Democrats, 47 Republicans. Over in Tennessee, Phil Bredesen is probably in good standing here. He would carry this race in the Democrats' best case scenario. Along with North Dakota, I see North Dakota going to the Democratic Party in, again, the best case scenario. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but again, we're just looking at where Democrats can win. Over in Texas, even in the Democrats' best case scenario, I'm not going to give that to the Democrat. Ted Cruz, not that popular of an incumbent, but we saw the primary numbers, not that much of a shift, not that much in terms of turnout amongst Latino voters. Fresh divide in the governor's race for the Democratic Party. It may not inspire some people who would otherwise come out and vote in all the races to vote in any of the races. So Texas right now in the GOP column, there probably isn't a possibility for them to ditch Ted Cruz. There was a couple months ago. There could be in a couple months from now. Again, I can't predict the future, but as we stand right now, not so good for the Democrats in Texas. Now we're moving on to the governor's map. So let's fill in all the safe states for the GOP. So I don't think it will actually affect anything if it won't. It doesn't have that feature, so I'm going to have to triple click for each one. All these states up across the Midwest are safe for the Republican Party. Alaska, I want to go back to actually. Typically, I fill that one in safe red for obvious reasons, but probably not. California, safe blue. Oregon, safe blue. These states are presumably safe blue. New York has a mildly contested Democratic primary, but probably safe blue. Vermont is safe red. Up in the Northeast, New Hampshire is safe red. Over in Maine, though, in the best case scenario for the Democrats, they would carry the state of Maine. But these two are safe red, regardless of how the map shifts. Over in Massachusetts, that one is also considered safe red, just based off how much of the state approves of the governor. Regardless of a Democratic wave or not, these states are probably not going to flip. Over in Rhode Island, though, that one would go to the Democrats in their best case scenario, along with Connecticut. And now we're going to keep moving across the United States. So New Mexico easily goes to the Democrats in this scenario, along with Colorado, retains in the Democratic column. Nevada flips just based off how they voted in 2016, and again, the best case scenario. And then they would have to make a pickup in Illinois, considering how much of a Democratic state the state of Illinois is. Over in Michigan, the Democrats do have some good candidates right now. So I think Michigan could definitely go to them in their best case scenario, along with ousting Scott Walker in the state of Wisconsin. That one goes to the Democrats. Minnesota also stays in the Democratic column in this scenario, along with Pennsylvania. Again, best case scenario, not talking about what will happen, what's likely to happen, but again, their best case scenario. Over in Tennessee, Arkansas, Alabama, South Carolina, safe for the Republican Party. We recently had primaries in the state of Georgia. Stacey Abrams, the Democratic nominee, has the possibility of being the first female African-American governor. That one's going to be really close. Before I had a Stacey Evans Democratic primary prediction, but that was, of course, wrong. I didn't really make an updated one since a couple months before the primaries, but Georgia, that one's going to be talked about a lot, especially when we're talking about shifting demographics. Goes to the Democrats in their best case scenario, along with the state of Florida with a retiring incumbent. However, Arizona, Doug Ducey, pretty popular there, would give that one to the GOP. Iowa, Kim Reynolds, probably going to the GOP as well. Over in Ohio, even in the Democrats' best case scenario, it's really hard to see how they could win. Technically they could win there. I'm going to actually give them the victory there, but keep in mind John Kasich is the retiring incumbent, and the Republicans are at a very good standing here, but the poll numbers have narrowed down, not enough to indicate a Democratic victory, but they could narrowly edge by maybe less than a percentage point in their best case scenario, which is not likely to happen. Over in Alaska, the Democrat will probably hold on to Alaska in their best case scenario. Not the Democrat, the independent, my bad. But again, anything is likely. The reason why I didn't talk much about Kansas is I know I'm going to see a comment like, why did you just brush over Kansas? Well, the reason why is a number of these Democratic candidates have promised to stay in the election if they win the primary. There's probably not going to be that prominent of an independent other than Greg Orman, and even if he does run again, he lost in 2014 against Pat Roberts in the 2014 Senate race here. He was leading in all the opinion polls, but then lost the general election. Kansas is probably not going to flip from the Republican Party. The vote is pretty much going to be split between the independents and the Democrats, considering the Democrats have refusal to give up this nomination just to hand it over to an independent. So we're going to see how that one turns out. But again, not so good news for independents or Democrats in Kansas. And, Maryland, the final state I'm going to fill in, which is my home state. In the Democrats' best case scenario, I could see how Maryland could go blue. Typically in every prediction, I give this one to my incumbent governor, but yes, he's approved, but that doesn't mean these people are going to vote for him. Compared to states like Vermont, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, all these people that approve of him are going to vote for him. Over in Maryland, it's a little bit different because, again, they are so closely tied to the president. The governor, again, has been shifting away from the president, but it's sometimes not enough when it comes to how people in my state would vote. So let's just look at the 2019 governor's map by parties. In the Democrats' best case scenario, 27 if you include the independent, to 23 Republicans, which is kind of weird seeing a little bit more blue in the South compared to blue in the Northeast. And then we go over to the Senate. We see the 2019 Senate makeup: Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Dakota, Montana, and Arizona, and Florida. All states that Donald Trump carried in 2016, now with a Democratic incumbent or holding on to their Democratic incumbent. So final map: 52 Democrats, 48 Republicans, 26 Democrats, 23 Republicans. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all tomorrow.